So if I look at B, it says factor negative y equal negative 24x squared plus 6 to find the zeros of the relation. How can I factor this? Do I have a common factor? What is it? 6. So negative 6 because my first term is negative. So it's going to be negative 6 and divide each term by negative 6. So I get that's 4x squared minus 1. Inside my bracket, how many terms do I have? 2. Are they squared terms? Yes. 4x squared is a squared term. 4 is a squared number. X squared has an even exponent, so they're a squared term. Is 1 a squared term? Yes. 1 squared is 1. Right? If you look at the back of your green sheet, this is one of the squared terms. So since there is a squared term and there is a minus between them, then I can use the difference of squares. So my difference of squares, I have to put brackets, square root the first term. So when I square root the first term, what do I get? 2x. One is going to go with a plus, the other one's going to go with a minus. What's the square root of the second term? 1. So it's going to be 2x plus 1, 2x minus 1. Now my question to you guys, what are your zeros? How do you find your zeros? You're going to set each bracket equal to 0. So bring the 1 over. So it becomes 2x equals negative 1. Divide by 2. So x equals negative a half. For the second one, bring the negative 1 over. It becomes a plus 1. Divide by 2. So x equals a half. So my two zeros are negative a half and positive a half. You have to write it that way. You have to write x equals negative a half, x equals to a half as to report your zeros. Are we okay with this? Yes.
Why didn't you do it the way you did the first one?
What? Sum and product?
That one you did the 1 over?
Yeah. When I brought the 1 over.
Yeah, you divided it on this side. You didn't do it on the 1, 8.
This one? This one?
So that whole question, like B, at the bottom,
Yes.
put the 1 over,
Yes.
and then the 2x divided by 2.
Yeah, but 2x divided by 2 is going to simplify to x, right? I just skipped one step here. I just skipped this step where I divide both by 2. Doesn't matter. They're going to give you the same answer. Right? I just skipped a step. All right, let's look at the last one. So for the last one, it's factor y equal negative 4x squared plus 24x because of the relation. I'm going to ask you that question again. What would you ask yourself first? Common factor. Do I have a common factor between these two terms? What is it? Negative 4x. Because look here, eyes on the board, please. If you look here, both terms have the letter x. In this case, only the first term had the letter x, right? So that's why I can't factor x here. But for this one, my common factor is actually negative 4x. So if I take my both my terms and I divide them by negative 4x. Okay? So, when I do so, I'll be left with negative 4x and then this one is going to be just x plus, or sorry, minus, because negative 24 over negative 4, that's a minus 6. So this is the factored form. Can I factor anything else? Look at the bracket. Is there anything I can factor like further? That's a question to you guys. Can I factor this any further? No, that's it. This is x minus 6. There's nothing I can do with that. This is already in factored form. This is the most factored form. Now, how can I find my zeros for this? Okay, so I only have 1 0? No, I have 2 zeros. You see that x that you see outside here? Since there's nothing with it, this is technically x minus 0, but I don't write that. We don't write that. So technically, you take this and you equal it to 0. And I can't tell you how many times students miss this. So that x that's outside the bracket by itself equals to 0. And the bracket, you equal to 0 and you get x equals 6. So you have 2 zeros. 1 at 0, 1 at 6. Make sure you know that. Make sure you pay attention to this, because there's going to be questions on the test where you have to do this, and a lot of people, I say it over and over again to them, do not forget this, and guess what happens on the test?
Yeah.
They forget.
So you want us to do that extra step?
It's not an extra step. You have to. The question is asking you find the zeros.
Oh.
That's what the question is asking.